Credible Threat Audio.
Credible Threat presents They Really Said That, Episode 8, Good Ancient Boys.
This is On the Spot Reports with Dora Worthy
and Phil Milton.
Today's On the Spot Report, a surprising alliance. We're out on some open rangeland near the small town of Left Behind, Nevada. A large number of people have gathered here.
Mainly males.
Have gathered here to make what they're calling a last stand.
Go armed at all times as free men. Be ready to do sudden battle.
Who's that on the speaker's platform, Phil?
That's Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keepers, which is one of the Christian militia groups gathered here.
Sudden battle, anywhere, anytime, with utter recklessness.
We're talking to Cliff Weatherbeaten, a spokesperson for the gathering.
It's okay, Dora. You can say spokesman around here.
Right. Thanks for talking to us, Cliff. Is it true that you've gathered near the town of Left Behind, Nevada, for the purpose of seceding from the United States?
You got it, Dora. We're pulling out of the United States.
Why?
Because we're fed up with too many feds. Federal taxes, federal regulations, federal inspectors, federal land grabs, federal gun grabs, federal abortions, federal godlessness. The list goes on.
So you've declared your own separate nation?
Yep. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another...
You're mainly Christian militias here, but you've expanded the coalition for this effort. Is that right, Cliff?
You bet. Lots of folks from all over.
Including some unusual and surprising guests.
We fear not the swarms of planes, nor ballistic missiles, nor drones, nor satellites, nor battleships, nor weapons of mass destruction. How could we fear them while Allah the Exalted has said, if Allah should aid you, no one can overcome you.
Isn't that...
Changing times, changing measures, Dora.
That's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of the Islamic militant organization known as Daesh, or what they call ISIS, or the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria.
You've invited the Muslim militants of the Islamic State to join your secession movement in Left Behind, Nevada?
We're giving it a try.
But aren't Muslims your mortal enemies?
Well, in one sense, yeah. Godless swine, spawn of the devil, that's true. But then we looked at the numbers, Dora.
Which numbers?
We asked ourselves, why are the Muslims getting all the media attention?
You think Muslims get more than their share of media?
Bet they do. Did you know that only 2% of terrorist attacks in the U.S. and the European Union are done by Muslims?
Only 2% of terrorist attacks are by Muslims?
That's right.
Who does the rest?
Nationalist groups, separatists, pro-lifers, others like us. But all the media attention goes to Muslim attacks. Why, on U.S. soil, there have been more attacks by the Jewish Defense League and the United Jewish Underground and those groups than attacks by Muslims. And even more attacks against abortion clinics by good Christian folks like us. Where's all the media for Eric Rudolph blowing up that lesbian bar in Atlanta? Or Robert Deere shooting up Planned Parenthood? Where's all the media for hard-working Christian terrorists?
Phil, is this true?
It's true, Dora. Only 2% of terrorist attacks in the U.S. and EU have been by Muslims.
150 mass shootings in the U.S. in the first half of 2016, and only 3 by Muslims. But they get all the coverage. It's just not fair.
But the media paid lots of attention to that Christian in Norway who killed 69 Muslims in 2011.
Anders Behring Breivik.
Yeah, and he was fighting for a monocultural Christian Europe just like we're fighting for a Christian-ruled USA. He got some media, but they always portrayed him as a lone nutcase. They refused to say he was part of a movement, even though we're all over the country and all over the world. Oath Keepers, Aryan Nation, Christian Identity, Phineas Priesthood, Hootery, Posse Comitatus, Army of God.
Are those all real groups, Phil?
All real groups, Dora.
I mean, we've got good Christians shooting people and bombing abortion clinics in the U.S. We've got the Lord's Resistance Army and other Christian militias beheading people in Africa. But the mainstream media still makes it sound like only Muslims do that. And here we are the whole time. We want a Christian world, and we're willing to shed blood for it. Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Revelations 19:16, who commands us to make disciples of all nations. Matthew 28:19. And before the end of time, all creation shall bend the knee and confess Jesus as Lord. Philippians 2:10 and 11.
Are those?
Actual Bible quotes, Dora.
So, Cliff, you and your Christian militias are joining forces with Muslim extremists in hopes of getting more media share.
Well, Media share was our first reason, but then we did some research, and you know what? Us Christian militants have more in common with Muslim militants than you might think.
Like what?
Well, the belief that God should rule and the Ten Commandments should be the law of the land, just like Joe Coney and the Lord's Resistance Army over in Africa says.
Our goal is a Christian nation.
Yeah, there's old Randall Terry from Operation Rescue.
We don't want equal time. We don't want pluralism. We are called on by God to conquer this country.
And here comes Reverend D. James Kennedy from Coral Ridge Ministries.
It's dominion we are after, not just equal time. World conquest. That's what Christ has commissioned us to accomplish.
And our new pal, al-Baghdadi from ISIS, says pretty much the same thing.
Soon, by Allah's permission, a day will come when the Muslim will walk everywhere as a master.
We also agree that homosexuals and women who don't obey should be stoned and killed, like it says in the Bible.
It says that in the Bible?
Oh, yeah. Deuteronomy chapter 22. Ye shall stone them with stones that they die. Leviticus, all the congregation shall certainly stone him. You name it.
Actual quotes, Phil?
From the Bible, Dora.
And of course, we also share what you might call methodology. Hey, there's our pal Richard Kelly Hoskins, quoting himself as usual, from his book about the Phineas priesthood, which he called Vigilantes of Christendom.
Denver, Colorado. An anti-Christian radio announcer stepped from his Volkswagen and was greeted with a hail of gunfire. In North Carolina, men entered a homosexual porno parlor, shot the occupants, and burned the parlor down on top of them. In the Midwest, interracial couples jogging together fell one after another before the carefully spaced shots of a distant sniper. The Phineas priesthood of Christendom is the latest in a long line of God's servants stretching back to antiquity.
Phil, is that?
A real book, Dora.
Ezekiel 9, verse 5 and 6. Follow him through the city and kill without showing pity or compassion. Slaughter the old men, the young men and women, the mothers and the children.
Are we making this up, Phil?
The event we are, but all these speakers and writers really said those things.
See, we figured out that the real enemy is not those spawn of the devil Muslims. It's like my friend August Christ from the Aryan Nation says.
You say they're terrorists, I say they're freedom fighters. And I want to instill the same jihadic feeling in our people's hearts, in the Aryan race, that they have for their father, who they call Allah.
Do you have a name yet?
Well, we asked our new brothers in arms what would be Arabic for good old boys, and they came up with Shalit Awadim. I'm pronouncing that the best way I know how. Shalit Awadim means the old Adams, or what you might call the good ancient boys, because we were in charge way back when, since Adam, since time immemorial.
Shalit Awadim, the good ancient boy.
That's right. Instead of Cliff, you can just call me Khalif.
So what's your next step? A military campaign?
Well, not by itself, Dora. For one thing, we've got a whole lineup of congressmen and political candidates asking for our endorsements.
Really?
Sure. They can't afford to alienate our voting base, and some of them are closer allies.
To God be the glory.
There's our pal Ted Cruz right
I
now.
want to tell everyone to get ready. Strap on the full armor of God. Get ready for the attacks that are coming.
But even better, we're contracting with Fox Network for a TV show.
What kind of a TV show?
Good Ancient Boys, the reality show. We were impressed by the media coverage our ISIS brothers were getting by videotaping their beheadings and so forth, but it turns out they were just as impressed by U.S. reality shows.
They were?
Sure, they saw that people love to watch people suffer. That's what reality TV is all about, waiting for someone to lose. We think a global Christian Muslim freedom fighter attack reality show will be a ratings bonanza. As a matter of fact, other networks are starting to get in touch. And anyway, we're feeling dehumanized by the mainstream media, and a TV show will show our warm, fun-loving human side.
If it's a ratings bonanza, you might become fabulously wealthy, Cliff. Any Christian religious issues with that?
We're willing to take that risk, Dora. You know the old saying, when God sends a contract, you'd better sign.
To God be the
All
glory.
praise and thanks are due to Allah.
Christian nation.
Dominion.
World conquest.
Thanks are due to Allah.
You've been listening to Good Ancient Boys, a presentation of Credible Threat Audio. They really said that. All quotes by authors and public figures are on public record. They really said those things. Episode 8, Good Ancient Boys, was written by Edward Mass, directed by Robert Lee, with the voices of Meg Savlov, Ricky Coates, Scott Caldwell, Vince Balestri, David Baum, Hannah Eady, Robert Lee, and Kevin Lynch. For more Credible Threat audio, go to crediblethreatworks.org. Credible Threat 2016.